you know the name. He's an artist who didn't just climb the charts, he completely rewrote the rulebook for a whole genre. Today, we're getting into the story of Eminem, a rapper who didn't just shatter records, but also broke barriers and became one of the most iconic and, let's be honest, controversial voices in modern music. So, how does a bullied, poverty-stricken kid from Detroit become a global superstar? How does a guy whose first album was a total commercial flop turn around and become a Grammy and an Oscar-winning legend? Well, that incredible, almost unbelievable journey is exactly what we're going to unpack right now. All right, here's the game plan. We're going to start with his tough beginnings as the ultimate outsider. Then we'll watch the birth of his explosive alter ego, Slim Shady. After that, we'll track his absolute domination of the 2000s, break down the actual science behind his rhymes, and finally, we'll try to make sense of his incredible, enduring legacy. To really get Eminem, you have to understand Marshall Mathers first. And that story, well, it begins with a whole lot of struggle and instability. You know, his childhood was just constant chaos. He was raised by a single mom, always moving, living near the poverty line in Detroit. He was always the new kid, which of course made him an easy target for bullies. His escape wasn't sports, it wasn't school, it was words. He absolutely fell in love with storytelling, with language. And by the time he was 14, he was sharpening his skills as Eminem in those fierce lunchroom rap battles. For him, this wasn't just a hobby, it was his shield. But just because you're passionate doesn't mean you're gonna make it. His first album, Infinite, came out in 1996, and it was a complete and utter flop. Nobody bought it. Critics said he sounded like other rappers. The rejection was so bad, it pushed him right to the edge. I mean, this wasn't just a bump in the road. He thought it was over. But right there, at rock bottom, something totally new was born. Out of that anger, that desperation, Marshall created a character that would change absolutely everything. He invented an alter ego, Slim Shady. And this wasn't just some clever stage name. No, this was a whole other person, a second self that gave him the green light to just unleash all the rage, all the dark humor, all the frustration he'd been holding inside. It was basically a channel for his most raw, unfiltered thoughts. And this character gave him complete freedom. As Slim Shady, he could talk about anything. His poverty, the violence he saw, his messed up family life. And he could do it with these shocking, over-the-top lyrics. Yeah, it was super controversial and a lot of people were offended, but it was also just genius. It made him impossible to ignore. But let's be real for a second. This is the late 90s. The hip-hop world is dominated by Black artists. So who in their right mind is going to place a bet on a controversial and so far failed white rapper from Detroit? The odds against him were just astronomical. The answer? Only one of the greatest producers of all time, Dr. Dre. When someone slipped him a copy of the Slim Shady EP, Dre didn't care what he looked like or where he was from. He just heard this insane, raw talent. And that one cosign, man, that was the key that unlocked the entire music industry for him. And with Dr. Dre backing him, what happened next wasn't just a comeback. It was one of the most dominant, unstoppable, and commercially successful runs in the entire history of music. I mean, just look at this timeline. It was so fast, it's dizzying. In '99, the Slim Shady LP lands like a bomb and wins a Grammy. 1 year later, he drops the Marshall Mathers LP, which is still called his masterpiece. Then, get this, in 2002 alone, he releases The Eminem Show, stars in the massive hit movie 8 Mile, and wins an Oscar. It was just a creative explosion. And if you want to understand just how popular he was, the Marshall Mathers LP sold 1.76 million copies in its first week. That was a record back then, and it's a number that is just, it's unimaginable in today's world of streaming. He wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural force of nature. But his impact was way bigger than just sales. When Lose Yourself, the theme from 8 Mile, won the Academy Award, it was a huge moment. It wasn't just a win for him, it felt like a win for all of hip-hop. It was the mainstream establishment finally giving the art form the respect it deserved. But look, his success wasn't just about shock value and catchy songs. The reason he earned so much respect from critics and other rappers was his insane level of technical skill. So let's get a little nerdy and pop the hood on a lyrical master. Okay, to really get what makes him special, you have to see how he rhymes. So a lot of rap uses simple rhymes at the end of a line, right? Like cat and bat, simple. But Eminem, he plays a whole different sport. He's a master of multisyllabic rhyming.
He's not just rhyming the last word, he's rhyming whole chunks of phrases against each other. It creates this crazy, dense tapestry of sound.
Let's use that famous example from Lose Yourself to see it in action. Okay, so first you've got the line, "Oh, there goes gravity." Got it? Then he hits you with, "Oh, there goes rabbit, he." You hear that? He's bending the words, stretching the sounds to make them match. He treats language like it's clay, forcing these sounds to rhyme in ways they're not supposed to. It's incredible. And it's not just about how complex his rhymes are. It's also about speed and just the sheer volume of words. On that track, Rap God, he spits an unbelievable 1,560 words in about 6 minutes. That's not just a song, my friends. That is an Olympic-level athletic performance. It even got him a Guinness World Record. The guy is a technical machine.
So, when you put it all together, the crazy sales, the mind-bending skill, the controversy, what's his lasting legacy? Well, it's so much bigger than just numbers or records.
Well, for one, he completely destroyed the idea that a white rapper had to be a novelty act. He demanded respect with pure, undeniable skill. He was also a bridge, bringing hip-hop to huge new audiences, in the suburbs all across the world. And with stories like Stan, that haunting song told through fan letters, he showed what was possible with storytelling and rap. All of that is why he became, simply, the best-selling rapper of all time. And get this, if you need more proof of his commercial power, he's the only rapper in history with 3 separate albums to go diamond. That means each of them sold over 10 million copies in the US alone. That kind of sustained success is it's unheard of in hip-hop. But maybe the most important part of his legacy, the most human part, is his resilience. He battled a horrible addiction to prescription drugs, had a near-fatal overdose, but he came back. He got sober and released an album he perfectly titled Recovery. It turned his story from just one of success into one of powerful survival.
So, it all comes down to this one question. When we're debating who is the greatest of all time, what's the most important thing? Is it the incredible technical skill, the record-breaking sales, or is it the deeply human story of survival against all odds? The thing is, with Eminem, you don't have to choose. He is that rare once-in-a-generation artist who has it all.